Hi, I'm Robin, English teacher with Core Languages, and today I'm back at Riverfront Park in North Charleston, South Carolina. It hasn't started raining yet, but if you look behind me, you will see it will soon start raining. Now think about the different things that will definitely happen every time it rains. For example, you could say, when it rains, things get wet. Or when it rains, the roads get slippery. When we make sentences about a cause and its definite result, we use what's called the zero conditional. The zero conditional helps us talk about general truths or things that are always true, but we need to understand how to form it. For example, it would be incorrect to say, if it rains, I would get wet, or if it rains, roads got slippery. In today's video, I'm going to show you how and when to use the zero conditional. So the next time someone asks you, what happens when it rains? You can formulate a perfect English sentence. A review of zero conditionals. We use the zero conditional to talk about an action or condition in the present that results in another action or condition also in the present. The zero conditionals are used to express general truths or scientific facts, as well as general habits. To form a zero conditional sentence, we typically use if or when, and we also sometimes add then. For example, when ice is heated, it melts. Is and melts are both in the simple present tense, and I could also say, when ice is heated, then it melts. Another example would be, if you go outside in the rain, you get wet. Go and get are both in the simple present tense. If you mix blue and yellow, you get green. Mix and get are in the simple present tense. All three sentences express either a general truth, a scientific fact, or a general habit. Every time ice is heated, it melts. Every time you go outside in the rain, you get wet. And every time you mix blue and yellow, you get green. Zero conditionals always take place in the present or the now, and they are real and possible. They can also be used with the imperative to give instructions, and when we use when or if to start the sentence, we place a comma at the end of that clause. For example, when water boils, it becomes water vapor. This sentence started with when, so we place a comma at the end of that clause. When water boils, comma, it becomes water vapor. We can also start the sentence with the main clause. You get tired if you don't sleep. In this case, we don't need a comma. If you get lost, call me. Call me is the imperative. We started with if, so we need to place a comma at the end of this clause. If you get lost, comma, call me. To form zero conditional sentences, we need to remember that both clauses need to be in the simple present tense or the imperative. We can start a zero conditional sentence with if or when, followed by the subject, a verb, and then the predicate or the rest of the sentence or clause. When we start the sentence with if or when, we need to place a comma here. Then we have another subject, another verb, and another predicate or rest of the sentence or clause. This is the subordinate clause, and this is the main clause. We can also start with the main clause, subject, verb, and predicate, and then follow with if or when, then the subject, then the verb, and the predicate. In this example, we started with the main clause and then the subordinate clause. We don't need a comma to separate the two. For example, if you exercise, you have less stress. This sentence starts with the subordinate clause and is separated by a comma. You get hungry when you don't eat. This sentence starts with the main clause and no comma is needed. Let's look at the following two pictures and sentences and try to choose the correctly conjugated verb to complete a zero conditional sentence. Sugar dissolved if it is added to water, or sugar dissolves if it is added to water. The correct verb is dissolves. We need the verb to be in the simple present. Sugar dissolves if it is added to water. And how about this sentence? If you inhale smoke, it causes damage to your lungs. Or, if you will inhale smoke, it causes damage to your lungs. To form a zero conditional sentence, the verbs in both clauses need to be in the simple present. Will inhale is not the simple present. The correct verb is inhale. If you inhale smoke, it causes damage to your lungs. And how about this sentence? When water is added to dry ice, there is a chemical reaction or there will be a chemical reaction. Will be is not in the simple present. The correct verb to use here is is. When water is added to dry ice, there is a chemical reaction. And what happens if butter is heated? If butter is heated, it melted or it melts. Remember that for the zero conditional, the verbs in both clauses need to be in the simple present. If butter is heated, it melts. Let's read the following sentences and try to determine whether the sentences are a zero conditional or not. If a bear is surprised, it attacks. Both verbs, is and attacks, are in the simple present, and the sentence states a general truth. This is a zero conditional. How about this sentence? If I shook your hand, you would catch my cold. The verbs shook and would catch are not in the simple present, and this sentence makes an assumption rather than stating a general truth. This is not a zero conditional. Dogs bark when they see squirrels. This sentence is a zero conditional. It states a general truth, and both verbs are in the simple present. People in the South say y'all when they address more than one person. This sentence is a zero conditional. It is a general truth, and both verbs are in the simple present. The ocean produces large waves during a storm. This sentence is not a zero conditional. This is a grammatically correct sentence, but it does not make a statement using if or when. Thank you for watching. I hope you now have a better understanding of how to use zero conditionals. As always, if you have more questions, feel free to comment, or if you're interested in joining one of our courses with a live instructor, feel free to message us directly. I look forward to seeing you in our next class.